If you have ever stood in your kitchen, just staring at a bag of beautiful coffee beans and wondering what exactly is the best way to get all that delicious flavor out of them, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Today, we're taking a brewer's journey through manual coffee brewing. And if you're new to this, manual brewing is simply the act of making coffee entirely by hand. No automated machines, no plugging things in. It gives you, the brewer, total control over every single variable. So we're going to look at methods that actually fit your lifestyle, starting from the simplest, most beginner-friendly techniques all the way up to some truly synergistic modern innovations.
Let me ask you this right off the bat. Are you looking for an easy and approachable morning brew? Because honestly, I think a lot of us are. You wake up groggy and the absolute last thing you want is a complicated science experiment before you've even had your caffeine. I completely get that. Making great coffee doesn't have to be intimidating. To really master manual brewing, you just need to wrap your head around 3 core principles: immersion, percolation, and hybrid brewing. So, in today's explainer, we're going to break these down so you can find the perfect method for your morning routine.
All right, Section 1. What is immersion brewing? Submerging into flavor.
Okay, let's dive right into our very first major category. At its core, immersion brewing is literally exactly what it sounds like. It's a category of brewing where your coffee grounds are fully and completely submerged in water. They just hang out together. And because the water and coffee sit together like this for several minutes, the flavor extraction is very slow and remarkably even. This process almost always gives you a flavor profile that is heavy-bodied, really rich, and deeply consistent. But while the basic idea of soaking the ground stays the same, different immersion tools offer totally different benefits depending on what you want out of your morning.
Section 2. Choose your immersion method. 3 tools for 3 lifestyles.
I kind of like to think of this as the rule of 3 for immersion brewing. We can break this down into 3 distinct vibes to give you a quick bird's eye view. First up, we have the easy and approachable French press. Its absolute best feature: no fancy technique required. Then, for a totally different lifestyle, there's the travel-ready AeroPress, which is loved because it's incredibly small and durable. And finally, if you really want a cinematic deep dive, the siphon pod gives you this highly theatrical vibe that produces a beautiful, entirely unique cup.
So let's zoom in on that very first method, the French press. If you are that person we talked about earlier, the one who just wants a great, reliable cup of coffee without fussing over specialized pouring kettles or doing complicated math at 7 a.m., this is absolutely your best bet. It is the very definition of easy and approachable.
I mean, the process is incredibly straightforward. Step 1, add your coffee. Step 2, add your water. Step 3, set a timer. And that's the whole shebang. As our source material points out, with a French press, you do not need any sort of fancy pouring technique. You just need water, coffee, a timer, and you're good to go. It completely removes any intimidation factor from manual brewing.
But hey, what if your lifestyle doesn't keep you in your kitchen? Let's shift gears to the AeroPress for all the travelers checking out this explainer. If you love to hit the road but you absolutely refuse to drink terrible hotel coffee, the AeroPress is a fantastic immersion method. It is exceptionally small and compact. Plus, it's highly durable, which means you can just toss it into a backpack or a suitcase without worrying about shattering glass everywhere. It's incredibly easy to travel with, and most importantly, it consistently makes a great cup of coffee wherever you happen to be. Now, on the complete opposite end of the spectrum from a quick, durable travel brew, we have the siphon pot. This is for the brewer who really wants an experience. If you're interested in a true deep dive into coffee making, this is the one. It is framed perfectly by our sources as a highly cinematic brew method. Honestly, it looks like a beautiful piece of vintage laboratory equipment just sitting right there on your counter. And this really illustrates the trade-off, right? Because the siphon pot requires heavy technique. It is absolutely more of a brewing challenge than your standard French press. You have to monitor the heat, dial in the timing, it's very hands-on. But the payoff? It rewards you with a beautifully unique cup of coffee. It usually results in a very clean, crisp cup, which is actually pretty rare for an immersion method. But that unique vacuum extraction pulls out a profoundly different flavor profile you simply can't get from the simpler tools.
So, we've seen that immersion is a fantastic way to brew, with tools for pretty much every lifestyle. But that leads us to a massive pivot in our coffee journey. What happens when you don't just settle for one style of brewing? What happens when you take the concept of immersion and you combine it with an entirely different technique? Imagine a literal evolutionary leap in manual coffee making.
Which brings us to Section 3, the hybrid coffee revolution, the best of both worlds.
This is where manual brewing gets truly modern and innovative. We are talking about getting the absolute best of both worlds through some really clever engineering. The crucial point here is a simple formula. P plus I equals hybrid. The I, as we just learned, stands for immersion. The P stands for percolation. Now, percolation is the other major principle of coffee brewing. This is where water continuously washes through a bed of coffee grounds. If you've ever seen classic pour-over tools like the V60 or the Kaleido Wave, those are perfect examples of percolation. Because there is a continuous flow of fresh water washing over the coffee, percolation extraction pulls out these incredibly complex, delicate, and bright flavor profiles. So, when you add that percolation together with immersion, boom, you get a hybrid.
Let's make sure we have a crystal clear definition of this. Hybrid brewing is the process of combining both percolation principles and immersion principles into one completely new brewing tool. By mashing these two distinct ways of extracting coffee together into one physical device, brewers have unlocked a totally new way to extract flavor. A true hybrid device physically controls exactly when the water sits in a slow, even immersion phase, and then exactly when a valve opens up to allow percolation to finish off the extraction. To give you a concrete idea of what this actually looks like on your kitchen counter, let's look at some popular hybrid tools. First, there's the clever dripper. As noted in the source material, true to its name, it is a brilliantly smart, original hybrid tool that's actually been around for a while. Then, you have the switch. This is currently the most famous example of a hybrid tool out there right now. Devices like the Hario switch look almost exactly like a standard V60 pour-over cone, but they have this clever little valve at the bottom that makes all the magic happen, holding the water for immersion and then releasing it for percolation.
Section 4. Why brew hybrid? The ultimate payoff. So we know it's a neat piece of engineering, but what is the specific benefit to you, the person actually drinking the coffee? Why go out and upgrade your gear to a hybrid tool? Well, it comes down to bridging a massive gap in the coffee world. Traditionally, brewers have had to choose between two highly desired traits. On one side, you have consistency, reliable, easily repeatable results. That's a hallmark of those heavy-bodied immersion methods like the French press. On the other side, you have complexity. Those rich, dynamic, delicate, and bright flavor profiles we just learned are associated with percolation methods like the V60. Hybrids perfectly solve this dilemma.
I want you to hear this quote directly from the source material because it really hits the nail on the head. Consistency, but still getting complexity. That is absolutely the main takeaway of hybrid brewing. Because the tool combines both methods, you no longer have to choose. You get the heavy body and reliability of an immersion brew, instantly followed by the clean, bright flavor separation of a percolation pour-over. You can wake up groggy, use a highly repeatable foolproof method, and still end up with an incredibly dynamic flavor profile in your mug. It's awesome. And that brings us to the end of our journey today. We've gone from the straightforward simplicity of the French press all the way up to the revolutionary engineering of modern hybrid brewers. So I'll leave you with this final, provocative thought to ponder over your next mug. Immersion or hybrid? Which cup will you brew tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep experimenting and happy brewing.